Welcome to the world of science fiction stories, and don't forget to like, share and subscribe my channel. Enjoy the listening. Every empire closed their borders. But he stood alone against the storm. Captain James Reed stood at the viewing platform of the Galactic Council's main chamber, his tall frame stiff with tension. The vast dome-shaped room buzzed with angry voices. 6 massive seats, each designed for a different alien species, formed a half-circle at the front. All 6 representatives glared at the human standing alone in the center. Reed rubbed his tired eyes. 3 days without sleep had left dark circles under them. His normally neat brown hair was messy, and his blue council uniform was wrinkled. He had been fighting for humanity non-stop since the news broke. The evidence is clear. Boomed Speaker Tor of the Bright Sun Empire. His golden scales gleamed under the chamber lights as he declared, "A human colony ship destroyed the sacred monument of eternal memory. This is not just property damage, it is a direct attack on our shared history." Reed stepped forward. "Speaker Tor, we admit the damage happened, but it was an accident. The ship's navigation system failed. We offer to rebuild." Silence. The word echoed through the chamber as Tor's tail slammed against his seat. Humans always have excuses. Always accidents. Your kind is too dangerous to share the stars with. Ambassador Drell of the Crescent Empire nodded, her 4 eyes blinking in sequence. "I agree. First it was accidental weapons testing near our borders, then accidental mining in protected zones. Now this. There are no more accidents to forgive." Reed felt his heart sink. The Crescent Empire had been humanity's strongest ally until recently. Something had changed, but he couldn't figure out what. One by one, each empire's representative voted. Reed watched in growing horror as the glowing display showed 6 votes against humanity. "Unanimous," the speaker announced. "The Council has decided that all human ships will return to Earth space immediately. All trade with human worlds will stop. All human diplomats will leave our territories. Earth is now under quarantine until further notice." Reed couldn't believe what he was hearing. "This will destroy us. Our outer colonies depend on trade. Millions will starve." "You should have thought of that before attacking our heritage," said Ambassador Krell of the Stone Reach Collective, his rocky face showing no emotion. Reed tried one last appeal. "At least give us time to arrange supply lines between our own worlds." Speaker Tor raised his clawed hand. "You have 14 standard days. After that, any human ship outside Earth's solar system will be considered hostile." The meeting ended. Reed stood frozen as the chamber emptied. Only when a human aide touched his arm did he move. "Captain Reed," the young woman whispered. "The emergency channel from Earth Command is active. Admiral Jones wants to speak with you now." Reed's private office in the human embassy was small but comfortable. Now it felt like a prison cell. Admiral Jones's hologram flickered with static. The Council was already limiting Earth's communication bandwidth. "This is a disaster," Jones said. Her face looked older than when he'd seen her last month. "Half our colonies can't survive without imports." "I know, Admiral, something isn't right. The Council never acts this quickly or this united, and the Crescent Empire is turning against us." "After 20 years of alliance?" Reed asked. Jones nodded. "We think so too. Intelligence suggests the monument incident might have been staged." Reed leaned forward. "Staged? By whom?" "We don't know yet, but we need you back on Earth. The President is forming a crisis team. Your experience with the Council will be valuable." Reed paced the small room. "Admiral, if I leave now, we lose our only eyes and ears at the Council. Let me stay, I can investigate what really happened." Joan shook her head. "Too risky. The quarantine is serious. We're getting reports of human ships being turned away from ports already, some stuck in deep space with low supplies. We need all hands at home. With respect, Admiral, home is where I can do the most good, and right now that's here. These are direct orders, Captain, return to Earth immediately. That's final. The hologram disappeared. Reed sat heavily in his chair. Direct orders. In 20 years of service, he had never disobeyed a command, but he had also never faced the possible extinction of his species. Later that night, Reed slipped through the lower levels of the council station. Most human staff were already packing to leave, but Reed had other plans. He entered a dimly lit bar called the Neutral Zone, one of the few places where different species mixed freely. He spotted his contact at a corner table. Max, Reed said, sitting down across from a weathered-looking man with a scar running down his left cheek. Max nodded. Heard the news. Tough break for Earth. I need information, the monument incident. Something's not right. Max took a slow sip of his drink. Not just not right, it was a setup. My sources say Crescent Empire ships were in the area before your colony ship arrived. They left right after the explosion. Why would they do this? The Crescents have been our allies. Power shifts, new leaders, old hatreds. Max shrugged. But here's what you really need to know, there's a meeting happening tonight. High-level officials from all 6 empires. Very secret, very unusual. Reed felt a chill. Where? Maintenance sector, Block D7. But you'll never get in. The place will be locked down tight. Reed slid a credit chip across the table. I'm not going home, Max. Not until I know what's happening. Can you get me access codes? Max's eyebrows rose. Disobeying orders, Captain. That's not like you. Neither is abandoning humanity when we need answers. Max studied Reed's face, then pocketed the chip. Give me an hour, but, Reed, if you're caught, I know you'll be executed as a spy. Reed stood up. Sometimes we have to risk everything for what's right. The maintenance tunnels were narrow and poorly lit. Reed's stolen maintenance uniform was too tight across the shoulders, but it had gotten him this far. He checked the small scanner Max had given him, no guards ahead. He reached Block D7 and found the meeting room. Instead of trying the door, he accessed a ventilation panel nearby. It was a tight fit, but Reed managed to squeeze through. From the vent above the room, Reed could see and hear everything. 6 aliens, 1 from each empire, sat around a table. None were the official representatives he knew from the council. The human quarantine is proceeding as planned, said the Crescent Empire official. Phase 1 is complete. Excellent, replied the Bright Sun representative. How soon can we begin Phase 2? The weapon will be ready within a standard month, said the Stone Reach scientist. It targets human genetic markers specifically, no other species will be harmed. Reed felt sick. This wasn't about a monument, it was genocide. He carefully took out a small device and began recording the meeting. This was the evidence Earth needed. If he could get it back home, the other species in the galaxy might intervene. As Reed shifted position, his elbow hit the metal vent with a soft clang. 6 pairs of alien eyes looked up. Security breach, shouted the Bright Sun official. Reed knew he had seconds. He grabbed the recording device and began crawling backward through the vent. Alarms blared throughout the station. His heart pounded as he reached the exit and dropped back into the maintenance tunnel. He had the evidence, but now he was a fugitive with nowhere to go in a station rapidly filling with security forces. Every empire had closed their doors to humanity, and Reed had just made himself the most wanted human in the galaxy. But he had made his choice, against all odds, he would fight for his people. The path ahead was dangerous and uncertain, but turning back was no longer an option. Alarms blared throughout the station as Reed ran through the dimly lit maintenance tunnels. The recording device felt heavy in his pocket, it carried proof of the planned genocide against humanity, but it would mean nothing if he couldn't escape. All security units, locate and detain the human spy, a mechanical voice announced over the station speakers. Repeat, human spy in maintenance section. Reed ducked into a narrow pike junction as a patrol of bright sun guards rushed past, their scaled bodies reflecting the emergency lights. His heart pounded so loud he feared they might hear it. When the coast was clear, Reed pulled out his communicator. "Max, they're on to me. Need extraction now." "Already working on it," Max's voice crackled. "Get to lower docking bay 12. There's a waste disposal ship leaving in 10 minutes. The pilot owes me a favor." "Copy that." Reed moved carefully through the tunnels, using his knowledge of the station's layout to avoid main corridors. Twice he had to hide as security teams passed by. The lower levels were less guarded, but time was running out. He reached docking bay 12 and spotted the waste ship, an ugly, box-shaped vessel with rust-coiled panels. A short, stocky alien with tough green skin was doing final checks outside. "You, Max's friend?" the alien grunted when Reed approached. Reed nodded. "He said you could help me leave. Hemp, hide in waste container 3. Don't touch anything glowing." The alien jerked a thumb toward a large metal bin. "Max and I are even." After this, Reed climbed into the foul-smelling container and pulled the lid down. Minutes later, he felt the container being loaded onto the ship. Then came the rumble of engines. He had escaped the station, but where could he go now? Every empire had closed their doors to humanity. 3 days later, Reed sat in a dingy bar on the asteroid mining outpost known as Rust Bucket. The place was filled with the worst sort of space travelers, smugglers, pirates, and outcasts from every species. Perfect for a human fugitive. Reed nursed a cheap drink, his once neat uniform was now hidden under a dirty jacket. His face was covered with 3 days of stubble, and he had smeared engine grease on his cheeks to change his appearance. "Looking rough, Captain," said a familiar voice. Reed's hand moved to his hidden blaster as Max slid into the seat across from him. "Relax," Max said. "If I wanted to turn you in, I would have done it already. The reward for your capture is pretty tempting." "Then why are you here?" Max grinned, revealing a chipped tooth. "Let's just say I'm not a fan of genocide. Besides, I've got someone you should meet." Reed followed Max through the crowded bar and into a back room. A slender alien with pale blue skin and 4 eyes waited there. Reed recognized her species immediately, she was from the Crescent Empire. He tensed, ready to run, but Max put a hand on his shoulder. "Easy. This is Lynn. She's a friend." Lynn studied Reed with all 4 eyes. "So this is the human who dared to spy on the High Council's secret meeting, brave or foolish, I'm not sure which. Why should I trust you?" Reed asked coldly. "Your people voted to quarantine mine. Now I learned they're planning to kill us all." "Not my people," Lynn corrected. "My government, there's a difference." She pulled back her sleeve to reveal a branded mark on her wrist. "I was a senior scientist in the Biological Research Division until I spoke out against our new leadership. This mark means I'm exiled, a traitor to the Empire." Reed asked, "What, exactly?" 6 months ago, a military faction took control of our government," Lynn explained. "Similar power shifts happened in all 6 empires around the same time. Too coordinated to be a coincidence. A galaxy-wide coup," Reed muttered. "But why target humans specifically?" asked Lynn. "Fear," Reed replied. Lynn said simply, "Humans adapt faster than any species we've encountered. You learn, you change, you grow. In just 100 years, you went from primitive, planet-bound creatures to having colonies across multiple systems. The new leaders see you as the biggest threat to their power." Max leaned forward. "Show her the recording." Reed hesitated, then pulled out the device. The holographic display showed the 6 officials discussing the weapon that would target human genetic markers. Lynn's 4 eyes widened. That's Admiral Vox of our military science division, and the others are all high-ranking officials from each empire. She pointed to a diagram visible in the background. That weapon design was already in development, and I only realized its true purpose too late. Can it really target humans specifically? Reed asked, can it? Lin nodded grimly. Theoretically, yes, a virus that attacks DNA sequences unique to humans. It would spread rapidly and be undetectable until too late. Reed slammed his fist on the table. I need to get this information back to Earth. They need to prepare. The quarantine is too tight. All ships are being checked, Max said. They catch you before you make it halfway home. Then what can we do? Reed demanded. Lin's face grew determined. We can stop the weapon. I know where they're building it. The edge worlds are a cluster of planets and moons at the border of explored space, not claimed by any empire. They are home to independent colonies, research outposts, and people who want to be left alone. Reed, Max, and Lin stood on a ridge overlooking a large facility built into the side of a mountain. Their small ship was hidden in a nearby valley. The Joint Research Station, Lin said, officially listed as an agricultural research center, is actually the primary development site for the anti-human weapon. Reed studied the facility through binoculars, heavy security guard towers, sensor arrays, patrol drones. Getting in won't be easy, Max added, checking his blaster. But I brought some toys that might help. He opened a case to reveal specialized equipment, sensor jammers, disguise kits, and cutting tools. Lin pointed to a small building away from the main facility. That's the entrance to the ventilation system. If we can reach it, we can access the central labs. Reed nodded. What's the plan once we're inside? I need to reach the main database. If I can access it, Lin said, I can not only get proof of who's behind this, but also the complete weapon schematics. With those, Earth scientists might develop a defense. Or we could just blow the place up, Max suggested. Reed shook his head. No, there might be innocent researchers inside who don't know what they're really working on. Besides, destruction won't stop them, they'll just rebuild somewhere else. We need the information. As night fell, they moved toward the facility. Using the sensor jammers, they created a blind spot in the security system. Max disabled the locks on the ventilation building, and they slipped inside. The tunnels were narrow and dusty. Reed led the way following Lin's directions through the maze-like system. Finally, they reached a great laboratory. Scientists of various species worked at stations around the room. In the center, sealed in a transparent containment field, was a small vial of dark liquid. Is that it? Reed whispered. The weapon, Lin replied, her face paling. Yes, and it's further along than I thought. That's a completed prototype. Then we don't have much time, Reed said. The main database is through that door across the hall. They waited until the lab cleared for a shift change, then dropped down from the vent. Reed moved to the door and peered out. The hallway was empty. Now he whispered, hurry, we don't know when. Suddenly, alarms blared throughout the facility. We've been detected. Max shouted. Lin frantically worked the controls. Almost done, just a few more seconds. Heavy footsteps echoed in the hallway. Reed raised his blaster. Whatever happens, that data needs to reach Earth. As the first security guards appeared at the end of the hall, Reed stepped out, weapon ready. He was no longer just a captain or a diplomat, he was an outcast fighting for the survival of his entire species, and he would not fail. Blaster fire sizzled past Reed's head as he ducked back into the database room. Security forces were closing in from both ends of the hallway. Lin, status, he shouted over the alarms. Download complete, she answered, pulling a small data crystal from the terminal. But we're trapped in here. Max fired several shots down the hallway, forcing the guards to take cover. Any bright ideas, Captain? I don't fancy dying in a research lab. Reed scanned the room quickly. His eyes landed on the ceiling panels. There, maintenance access. Same design as the council station. Max boosted Lynn up first. She pushed aside a panel and climbed through. Reed followed, then reached down to help Max just as Max grabbed his hand. A blaster bolt hit the smuggler in the shoulder. Reed pulled him up with all his strength as security forces burst into the room below. The three fugitives crawled through the tight space above the ceiling. Max's breathing was labored, his face pale with pain. Left here, Lynn whispered. This should lead to the outer section. They emerged in a storage area near the facility's outer wall. Reed checked Max's wound. The blaster had burned through his jacket and left an ugly, chewed mark on his shoulder. Can you move? Reed asked. Max nodded grimly. Been hit worse. Let's go. Lynn applied a quick emergency seal from a first aid kit she found on a shelf. This will help for now, but we need to get him proper treatment soon. Security alarms still blared throughout the facility. Reed peered out a small window. Guards everywhere. We'll never make it back the way we came. What about that? Max pointed weakly to a small supply shuttle docked at a loading bay. Reed nodded. Perfect. Lynn, can you fly it? He asked. Basic piloting was required in the Science Academy, she confirmed. They waited until the guards moved to another section, then made a dash for the shuttle. Reed helped Max inside while Lynn went straight for the controls. No key codes, she said with relief. They leave these unlocked inside the secure perimeter. The shuttle's engines hummed to life. As they lifted off, the facility's defense systems activated, turrets swiveled toward them. Hang on. Lynn shouted, pushing the small craft to maximum acceleration. The shuttle shuddered as energy blasts grazed its hull. Reed held on to Max, who was drifting in and out of consciousness. Stay with us, he urged. They cleared the facility's range, and Lynn set course for the deepest part of the Edgeworlds. We did it, she said, her 4 eyes blinking with relief. And I have the data, everything about the weapon and more. Reed looked up. More. Lynn nodded. The files contained communications. The conspiracy goes beyond just the weapon. They've been planning this takeover for years, and Reed, there are humans involved. Humans. Who are they? Asked Reed. Lynn brought up a file, high-ranking officials in Earth's government and military. They've been promised safety for themselves and selected others in exchange for helping implement the quarantine from the inside. Reed's face hardened as he recognized one name in particular, Admiral Black, his direct superior. The doctor entered the room, wiping his hands on a towel. Your friend will live. The wound is clean, and I've accelerated the healing. He'll need rest though. Reed thanked the doctor, then returned to the terminal. We need to get this information to Earth. The right people need to see it. Even if we could break through the quarantine. Lynn asked. How would you know who to trust? Reed began, but before he could answer, the clinic's alert system activated. A ship was approaching. Reed looked at the scanner. Military design. How did they find us? Lynn checked the data logs. The shuttle must have had a hidden tracker. Get Max ready to move. Reed ordered, grab your blaster, I'll hold them off. He positioned himself at the clinic's entrance, ready for a fight. But when the ship landed and its ramp lowered, a single figure walked out, a human woman in an Earth military uniform. Captain Reed, she called. I'm Commander Wilson. I've been looking for you. Reed kept his blaster raised. How did you find me? He demanded. And why should I trust you? Wilson stopped at a safe distance. Admiral Jones sent me. She suspected something was wrong when Admiral Black ordered your arrest for treason. I've been tracking you since you left Council space, Wilson explained. Reed remembered his last conversation with his former commander. She had ordered him home, but perhaps she had her reasons. She believes you, Wilson continued, and she wants to help, but we need to move quickly. Wait here, he said, then went back inside to consult with Lynn. It could be a trick, Lynn warned. But if it's not? Reed looked toward the room where Max was recovering. We can't stay here anyway, and we need allies. Lynn nodded slowly. I sense no deception from her, but I've been wrong before. Reed made his decision. He helped Max to his feet while Lynn gathered their equipment and the precious data crystal. When they emerged from the clinic, Wilson was still waiting. Her eyes widened at the sight of Lynn, a Crescent scientist. You're working with the enemy. She's not the enemy, Reed said firmly. She's risked everything to help us. The real enemy includes people on both sides. Wilson hesitated, then nodded. Admiral Jones said, you might have unexpected allies. Come on, we need to go. My ship has a stealth system that should get us past the quarantine patrols. As they boarded Wilson's ship, Reed felt a glimmer of hope for the first time since this ordeal began. They had the evidence. They had a way back to Earth. Maybe they could still save humanity. The ship took off, vanishing into the stars. Below, the clinic's doctor watched them leave, then activated a hidden communicator. They're on their way, he said. Yes, all of them, the human captain, the Crescent scientist, and the smuggler, plus a new one, a military female. He listened for a moment, then nodded. Understood. Admiral Black, I'll expect payment as agreed. Wilson's ship slipped through space, its stealth systems making it nearly invisible to sensors. In the small command center, Reed watched as Lynn and Wilson discussed the route back to Earth, with Max still weak but improving, sitting beside Reed. You trust this, Wilson? Max asked quietly. Not completely, Reed admitted. But we need to take some chances. Lynn joined them. We'll reach Earth space in 3 days. Wilson has codes to bypass the quarantine blockade. And then? Max asked. March into military headquarters with our evidence, Reed replied, shaking his head. Too risky. Admiral Jones has arranged a secret meeting with people she trusts, government officials, military officers, scientists, people who can act on this information. If they believe us. Lynn said, they'll believe this. Reed held up the data crystal. Facts, not a dub lie. Wilson entered the room. Course set, she began, but then stopped suddenly as the ship's alarm activated. That's impossible, we're being tracked. Reed rushed to the scanner. A large military vessel was closing in fast, an Earth ship, heavy cruiser class. The communication system crackled, attention rogue vessel, this is Admiral Black of the Earth Defense Force. You are carrying fugitives and enemy combatants. Surrender immediately. Reed looked at Wilson, whose face had gone pale. You led them to us. No, she protested. I swear, I don't know how they found us. The truth didn't matter now, what mattered was the evidence they carried, the key to saving humanity from extinction. Reed took the data crystal from his pocket and looked at it. So small, yet it held the fate of billions. Prepare for evasive maneuvers, he ordered. Whatever happens, this evidence needs to reach Earth. Evasive maneuvers now. Reed shouted as Admiral Black's cruiser fired its first warning shot across their bow. Wilson jumped into the pilot's seat, her hands flying over the controls. The small ship lurched to the side as energy beams cut through the space they had occupied seconds before. We can't outrun a military cruiser, Max said, gripping his seat as the ship shuddered. Lynn studied the star map. There's an asteroid field 2 minutes away at maximum speed. We might lose them there. Do it, Reed ordered. Wilson pushed the engines beyond safety limits. The ship groaned under the strain as they raced toward the asteroid field. Behind them, the cruiser followed, still firing. 30 seconds to asteroid field, Lin announced. A direct hit rocked their ship. Warning lights flashed across the control panel, shields down to 20%, Wilson reported. One more hit like that and we're done. They reached the asteroid field just as another blast struck them. The engine sputtered, and the ship spun wildly between two massive space rocks. I've lost control. Wilson fought with the steering as Reed strapped himself in. Everyone braced for impact. Their ship scraped against an asteroid, sending them tumbling into the depths of the field. The cruiser, too big to follow, held position at the edge, continuing to fire blindly after them. When the spinning stopped, they found themselves hidden among the asteroids, damaged but intact. Engines offline, Wilson said, checking the systems. Life support functioning. Communications dead. Reed looked out the viewport at the field of floating rocks that surrounded them. We're trapped. Better trapped than captured, Max replied, wincing as he adjusted his injured shoulder. Lin was already working on the communications panel. I might be able to send a narrow beam transmission. It won't reach Earth, but maybe we can contact someone closer. Reed nodded. Try to reach Admiral Jones. She's our only hope now. As Lin worked, Reed pulled Wilson aside. How did Black find us? Wilson shook her head. I don't know. My ship was clean, I'm certain of it. Could Jones have betrayed us? No, Wilson said firmly. She risked everything sending me to find you. Someone else must have tracked us. Reed considered this, possibly, but it didn't matter now. What mattered was getting this evidence to Earth. He held up the data crystal that contained proof of the conspiracy. So much depended on this small object. 3 days passed while they drifted in the asteroid field. Lin had managed to repair basic systems, but the engines remained offline. Max's condition improved slowly, and he spent most of his time helping with repairs. Reed stood by the viewport, watching Admiral Black's cruiser. It remained at the edge of the asteroid field, patient as a predator. They know we can't leave, he said as Wilson joined him. Food and water will last another week if we're careful, she replied. But air recycling is struggling. A light flashed on the communications panel, and Lin rushed to it. Incoming transmission. Narrow beam, encrypted. They gathered around as Lin accepted the transmission. A familiar face appeared on the screen, Admiral Jones. Reed, she said with relief. The Admiral looked tired but determined. Captain Reed, Commander Wilson, good to see you alive. Reed quickly explained their situation and what they had discovered about the weapon and the conspiracy. Jones listened intently. This confirms our suspicions, Black isn't working alone. There's a network of traitors throughout Earth's government and military. Why would humans help alien empires destroy their own kind? Wilson asked. Power, safety, the usual reasons people betray their species, Jones answered bitterly. They believe they'll be spared when the weapon is deployed. We have all the evidence on this data crystal, Reed said. But we're trapped. Black's cruiser is waiting for us. Jan, smiled Jones slightly, not for long. Help is coming. The transmission ended. Reed looked at the others. What did she mean by help? They got their answer 12 hours later when the asteroid field lit up with weapons fire. 3 ships had appeared and were attacking Black's cruiser. Earth ships? Wilson said, checking the scanner, but not military ones. There are civilian vessels with weapons attachments. The resistance, Lin realized. There must be others fighting against the conspiracy. One of the ships broke away from the battle and headed into the asteroid field. It was smaller than Black's cruiser, able to navigate between the rocks. A new transmission came through. A man with gray hair and a scarred face appeared on screen. Captain Reed, Professor Thomas, Earth Science Academy, Admiral Jones sent us. We're your rescue party. The battle had given them the distraction they needed. Professor Thomas's ship docked with theirs, and they transferred quickly. As they pulled away, they saw Black's cruiser engaged with the other two resistance ships. "Will your friends be okay?" Reed asked as they navigated out of the asteroid field. "They know the risks," Thomas replied grimly. "Their job was to keep Black busy while we got you out. They'll try to escape when they can." Thomas's ship was faster than their damaged vessel had been. They put distance between themselves and the battle quickly. "Where are we going?" Reed asked. "Earth is still under quarantine." "Not Earth," Thomas said. "Not yet. We're going to Haven." Haven turned out to be a small moon orbiting a gas giant in an unmarked system. As they approached, Reed saw dozens of ships of various designs in orbit and a sprawling settlement on the surface. "What is this place?" he asked, as they landed. Thomas led them out of the ship. This was the Resistance headquarters, where people from all species had gathered. Reed took a deep breath, his mind reeling from the cascade of events. The Council's verdict, the secret meeting, the evidence of genocide, and now the revelation of a far deeper conspiracy that reached even into Earth's own government. Yet, amid the mounting despair, hope had rekindled. They had allies now, a united front striving to save humanity. It was a new beginning forged in the fires of betrayal and danger, where every moment was a battle, and every decision, a step toward reclaiming freedom in the vast, unforgiving galaxy.